You're listening to Safety FM Min.
This episode of the broadcast and the podcast is brought to you by Safety Focus Moments. They're consultants that want to help you get the safety culture you've been looking for. For more information, go to safetyfocusmoment.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Safety FM Mini. I am your host, Jay Allen, but I'm also your host on Safety FM with Jay Allen. And let's sit back today and have a conversation. No, seriously, let's have that conversation that we need to have because it's probably time to do this. So let's start going through the whole process together. Here we are, episode 777. When I started Safety FM with Jay Allen, or whatever variation of the name it was 7 years ago, I didn't think for a single moment or imagine that I'd be sitting here behind this microphone talking about closing the chapter on this show. And before we do anything else, before we talk about history, before we change things, before we talk about what's next, I want to take a moment to simply say this. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for caring enough about this space, this industry, this community, and this work. Over the last 7 years, Safety FM with Jay Allen, or whatever version I was calling it at the time, has been listened to by 72.3 million listeners, or at least 72.3 million times. 72.3 million listens. I honestly had to look at that a couple of times and I was like, hold on. I didn't even think that this was real, but it is. And it's because of you. You've invited me into your morning commutes, your late night drives, your training rooms, your offices, your job sites, and sometimes even the weird corners of the world where, barely Wi-Fi gets to, but we hung out together. And then you had to download me probably in some way, shape, or form. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the 777 episodes. Thank you for the 7 years. Thank you for being part of this entire journey. So we got here. So now let's talk about the elephant in the room, or maybe the elephant on the podcast feed, maybe oversaying this. Over the years, something interesting happened, something I didn't even really notice at first. But this show, Safety FM with Jay Allen, or whatever I was calling it at the time, started to blend with the Rated R Safety Show. And then it blended a little bit more, and then a little bit more. And then before long, I looked around and realized a lot of what I was doing was already doing over again. I was repurposing some of the stuff. I found myself repurposing segments, interviews, commentary, sometimes without even thinking about it. Not because of laziness and not because of burnout, not because of so much conversation in our world, or at least in the safety world, the human performance world, or the operational reality world had shifted. And the way that I delivered the content, the way that I had the conversations, and the way I connected with people, well, the Rated R Safety Show became the place where that energy naturally lived. And that's when Jay Allen in the Mornings came about, which has taken on its whole different thing. The show isn't going anywhere. In fact, those shows are staying and they're growing and they are evolving. But this show, Safety FM with Jay Allen, because that's what we're calling it now, it's reached the end of its arc. And that's okay, because endings don't always mean loss. Sometimes they simply mean completion. They mean transition. They mean making room for what's next. So why does the ending matter? This decision wasn't made in the middle of the night, and it wasn't impulsive, and it wasn't reactive. It was thoughtful. It was intentional. And honestly, it was necessary. With all the changes we've seen in the industry, with the evolution of the network, and with the growth of other shows, with the way that we've delivered audio now, the way that we engage with audience, Safety FM with Jay Allen was gracefully reached its conclusion of its life cycle. It served its purpose, it made its impact, and now it can take a well-deserved bow. So, the guest who built this show with us, over 777 episodes, I've had the privilege, if not the honor, of speaking with some of the most insightful, disruptive, challenging, hilarious, brilliant, and downright fascinating people in safety operations, risk, resilience, and work as done. I'm not going to list every single guest because we would be here the entire recording session just trying to figure out everybody who's been on here. But if you're hearing this and you were ever on the show, thank you. Thank you for sharing your voice. Thank you for giving us your time. Thank you for trusting me with your stories. Thank you for helping shape a catalog of conversations that, quite frankly, I think people will still be able to listen to for years from now. Every single person who sat across from me, virtually or in person, left their fingerprints on this feed. And I'm grateful for each of you. So what does this change not mean? Now, let me be extremely clear, because this is where it's going to get confusing, about something. Because I know how this works. Rumors love to fill the silence. This does not mean that I'm done. This does not mean that Safety FM is going anywhere. This does not mean that the content stops. Not even close. What this means is that the energy, effort, creativity, interviews, discussion, breaking news, commentary, and all the fun stuff that you've grown accustomed to will now be centralized and amplified on the Rated R Safety Show and the Jay Allen in the Morning Show. Both shows are staying, both shows are active, both shows are growing. And yes, you will hear interviews there. You will hear long-form conversations there. You will hear everything you've come to expect, just now in places where the format really fits what I'm doing today. This isn't the end of me talking. This is the end of a specific chapter. So a final thank you. Before we close this out and roll back into the final track, I want to say this one last time. Thank you. Thank you for every episode you downloaded. Thank you for every message you sent. Thank you for every conference hallway conversation that you started with, "Hey, Jay, I heard on your show." Thank you for trusting me with your time, because time is one thing that you never get back, and you choose to spend it here. This podcast has been more than a project, more than a show. It's been a community, a connection, a conversation that never really ends. It just changes venues. So from me to you, episode 777 or 777, however you'd like to word it, is the end of Safety FM with Jay Allen. But it's absolutely not the end of our story. Stick with me on the Rated R Safety Show. Stick with me on Jay Allen in the Morning. Stick with me as we create whatever comes next. So, in the closing moments, I want to introduce you a final song. Now, because we're always trying to experiment something new, we want to create, we want to play, we want to build. And I want to close the final episode with a track that means a lot to me personally. It's a song that we wrote together last week using AI, because that's really what we did. And the song is called Crossroads, at the End of All Things. And I think it fits perfectly, because life, safety, work, change, transition, they're all crossroads. Different clues, different paths, different answers, but all connected. So for a last time on this feed, thank you for listening. Thank you for the 7 years. Thank you for episode 777. And thank you for being part of Safety FM. Here is Crossroads, at the End of All Things. I've been your safety manager and host, Jay Allen. Goodbye for now.
I walk the line where the daylight dies, black sun sinking in a crosswind sky, every promise carved in sand, every dream that slipped my hand. I felt the truth beneath my skin. Everything that starts must end again. No mercy left for the wandering man, just the echo of a life I used to understand. And the road gets cold, the shadows At the crossroads of the end of all things, where the night still cries and the lone wolf sings. Every beginning is a borrowed flame, burns so bright then fades again. At the crossroads I learned my name, and nothing born ever stays the same. I've seen the silver in a dying moon, heard the lullaby of a soul too soon, held the truth like a rattlesnake. Every heartbeat just a small earthquake. A stranger's voice whispered soft and low. Every seed you plant must grow, then go. I bowed my head to the shifting sand, walked the desert with an empty hand. And the stars fall down like forgotten sins. Where the tale begins, the tale begins to end. At the crossroads of the end of all things, where the night still cries and the lone wolf sings. Every beginning is a borrowed flame, burns so bright then fades again. At the crossroads I learned my name, and nothing born ever stays the same. Oh, the river flows where the lost go blind, and time carves truth in the back of the mind. If love is a door, then death is the key, and both of them keep unlocking me. So take my hand if you understand. The hourglass don't fear the sand. Everything that starts must someday bend. Every road we walk has an end, my friend. At the crossroads I'll wait again.
During this broadcast, podcast, or radio show are solely those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Safety FM and or Radio Big. The content discussed, including examples of analysis, is provided for illustrative purposes only. It should not be applied as the sole solution in real-world scenarios, as it is based on limited and dated open source information. Any assumptions made during this broadcast, podcast, or radio show are not reflective of Safety FM and or Radio Big. No portion of this broadcast, podcast, or radio show may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of Safety FM and or Radio Big. For permission requests, please contact Safety FM or Radio Big directly.